Okay, we're live. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to TFC Open Mic. This is season 3, episode 34. Anyone say changes? Yeah, let's discuss it. So, hi all in there in live chat. Yeah, I didn't pin the post on the page, I must admit. I created it and I was hoping people would just look in the events list, but obviously that didn't quite pan out. So my error. I will make sure I remember to pin the announcement. We can't just pin it to the top of the page anymore on Facebook. It doesn't work like that, which is proper frustrating. But anyway, right. Evening, Venom. How are we?
I'm doing very good.
I'm already laughing. Anyway, not to worry. Evening, Brian, with your rosy cheeks. How you doing, buddy?
If you join this hangout, you get to look at Venom's screen as he tries to fix his meme game. It's comedy.
Oh dear, it's funny. Yeah, I'll post it up again in chat. There should be a link just coming in now, so anybody else wants to hop in, please feel free to do so. There is plenty to talk about tonight, obviously, because there's an awful lot's happened in the game. There's a couple of things I want to sort of like there's been a few updates in the game, like, you know, the sidebar on the right hand side. Obviously the battle screen is different for selecting your fleets and that sort of stuff, you know, as you can do it from on the water, and there's a few issues obviously with hitting bases and that sort of stuff as well. So we'll do some of that live, just to give some people some assistance, because I've been playing around with that to make stuff a little bit easier, to be honest. Anyway, not to worry. Right, so what have we got then? So VXP Weekend's going on live now. Has anybody actually got anything to rank? I don't know. I suppose so. I suppose some people might be finishing off their Manticore flagship and things like that.
Yeah.
Anything for you, Venom?
At some point, my Manticore flagship became unranked, so I re-ranked it again. Don't ask me when or how that happened, but it was ranked at one point, and I think some point last raid I discovered it was unranked, so back to doing that joyful thing again. Yeah.
Well, what did you do to that thing then?
Fuck, I have no idea. I never knew.
Cinnabon in chat says all her fleets are dead, but she blames Ford anyway, so I think that's acceptable.
I blame Ford too. It's all your fault.
You blame Ford as well.
Yep.
What, for your ranking issue?
Yep.
I'll say ranking carefully. All right then. Yeah. So anything? Stop sniggering, Brian, like a child.
It was fine until you said, "I'll say this carefully."
It's one of those moods. Anyway, I'm bored. I've got nothing to rank. So yeah. So how are you getting on? Did you build anything fresh that you are looking to use the VXP weekend, or?
I mean, my Greta's Inferno was technically incomplete because I started ranking it when I got it, and when that happened, it's ranking it in these targets is hard, just plain and simple. It was at 70, and now I've killed it off once. It's at 73, and that's fine. I think I need to go out and kill a couple, because I haven't done that in a while. I need to get my Defender VXP token stock up.
So it's yeah. What have they got left? It's 2 p.m., isn't it? And we've got till, is it 9 o'clock? I think basically another 7 hours.
7 hours.
7 hours to the 105s, and obviously down to 55s then. And don't forget, obviously, if you're killing off the 105s, you manage to do the whole thing with your Manticores, and obviously you get the Defender token as well. So, and we do know that there's a Defender coming. There's one more to come for this series as well. So whether that's in Bounty or whether that's actually in the next raid, I don't know. Let's hope it's not in the raid, because obviously we've got a new raid ship coming as well. But yeah, sod's law is that it will happen. So, but there's definitely one turning up somewhere. As is there another PvP ship, isn't there? Because we're waiting for the one with the concussive. Whether that be a replacement to the... Well, we've had the corrosive, so yeah, we'll see. Whether it's just going to be a sub or whether it's going to be something else, God only knows. Not to worry. So VXP, dead exciting. Anybody in chat ranking anything that's surprising me? I see someone there saying they're within Proto Centurions. You're going to love that, because they're cheap to run. Yeah, we'll talk about the Protos in a minute, I think, because I've managed to sort of have a little look at forums as well, and picked up on a few things that Wrong Thinker, has, to his credit, has been posting in the chat as well, which is quite surprising, the amount that he's been posting as well. So I have to say thanks for that, because he initially is engaging. Whether you're skeptical, hey Venom, it's a good question. I don't know. You skeptical, or are you waiting to I don't know.
It's a bit of both. At this point, you kind of just expect the worst.
It's a bit like how many times you cry wolf, isn't it?
Yeah.
Before you stop looking. It's almost like the reverse of that. It's how many times you can tell us it's going to get better until we just go, meh.
It's like they say one thing like, well, we're going to 4 raid cycle, give more time to build things. And we're going to 1 ship, so there's not as much to build. Then they give us 2 variations of that ship. So now we've still got basically 2 hulls. And then they just completely backtrack, just 100% backtrack, and say, well, no, that's not how we want to go. We want to go back to this again. As if they forgot the reason they did it to start with. But you know.
Yeah, but then again, the reason they did it to start with, see, the S set is always going to have 2 targets, whether you like it or not, and one target is going to favor one type of weapon system, and the other one's going to favor another type of weapon system. I get that, and it makes sense, you know. And if you're talking about monetizing a game, which is what this is basically doing, the best that you could possibly do is to have all the toys in your toolbox, and then you can flip between one and the other. Yeah, got that. Okay. So this time, what they're saying is we're not going to quite go back to what we did before. So let's just say for this particular, which is Skirmish, we're not going to necessarily give you a submarine to say that the submarine can do this target in the S set, but is really, really bad in this one. AKA, just think about when we took the hunters into a certain target, which was designed, obviously. I'm talking later in the TLCs, by the way. That was designed later for, you know, the Fangtooths, and vice versa. Took the Fangtooths in, and they got annihilated. So that shouldn't and will not happen unless they're completely going to backtrack on everything they've said so far. You should be able to take either one. I'm not saying one's a sub. So we've got the thingy tail, fan tail, whatever it's called, and that sort of stuff, and we've got this bat race. So seeing as there's 2 and it's Skirmish, it's highly likely that one will be surface and one will be subsurface. I don't really know, but I'm guessing. Because otherwise 2 different concussive surface and 2 different concussive sub is a bit crazy. So yeah, now don't really mind if one's very, very good at something, and just because the nature, think back to the Manticore raiders we're in now, though there is definitely one of the targets in there that's really, really designed for missiles, because the ships just don't bunch. The other ones do, but it doesn't mean the missile Manticore can't do it. It just doesn't do it very well. And I suppose that's the concept they're going to go forward with. But they've still saying that if you have both ships, you are definitely going to, so both variants, you're definitely going to do better than one person blundering through with one only, which is interesting. So in that aspect, there's not much change. What they're just saying is there's going to be no benefit from going one way or the other. Well, that's probably because there's 2 different types of targets. Does that sort of make sense?
So if you want all the top stuff, you really still need the 2 ships.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter which way round. If you're going for one, they're equally as good or equally as bad. Does that make sense? It
doesn't matter your choice of which one you choose to start with, but at the end of the day, to get the maximum amount of points, and under the circumstances, the points are probably really high again. It's going to be, you're going to have both again.
You can't have both in the first series anyway, whether you like it or not.
Well, they said there's a campaign to get the second one after the raid, so technically,
after, yes.
No, like after this upcoming raid, there's a TLC to get the second haul, so you can get both before the raid.
Oh dear.
So
is that for the super greedy?
Yeah. Well.
But then you've got to trade off, haven't you, about the cost of building a second fleet, because you'll never do it in time, that sort of stuff. And is it worth putting in that much coinage? Or is it just better to go, well, and bear in mind, you won't, whilst you'll be able to see the block stats, you won't be able to have driven these. So you've got to, I mean, that's what I was thinking. That. So let's think about that, right? So let's ignore the Manticores and let's go back to the real concept of this time last year when we were talking about skirmisher hulls. So you had, I mean, that's what I was thinking. So let's think about. Hey, Samuel, you're right. Can you turn YouTube off, mate, buddy? Go back to the real concept of this. Thanks, mate. How are you? Okay. just had his channel off a little bit, that's all. Yeah, so I was just thinking, so if you have two different types of concepts, and it really was quite interesting when we had, you know, the Hellwraith raid, which was a really, really obvious one, you know. Driving those subs was quite interesting, you know. But it was the real option of drive those subs or drive those subs. But then we moved on to the Fangtooth raid, where we had surface ships and subsurface ships. And that, I think, split the community in two halves. You had certain people that just hate submarines. You know, we always laugh at, you know, like Liam and that sort of stuff, you know, because he's just not a patient player. It's as simple as that, you know. And also with the advancement of the BP app and that sort of stuff, do you be wanting to drive, you know, God forbid you couldn't make one of the raids, that sort of stuff, you know, and then do you want to be taking a technical ship into something on a BP app and then obviously not being able to, you know, utilize it to its full potential, i.e. it's going to crash into lots of stuff and then take lots of damage, which is classic in skirmish raids.
Well, if they have a sub in this raid, it's always going to do that anyway. You're always going to have that problem.
Yeah, exactly, and that's my point. You know, so what do you take first? Do you take the risk and take the blitzing formation? You know, so that's probably a surface ship with a Gatling gun with probably splash or something like that. You know, which is sort of like being the last three with the Tide Seeker and you know the Phantom Tide, which let's just park that thing to the side for the moment. But you know, and then obviously the Hunters with their hounds, tooths, and all that sort of stuff. Depth charge weapons and that sort of stuff. You know, whether it be a Gatling gun or a depth charge weapon, I don't know. But the point is, you know, you're probably going to get away with a little bit more flex if you're smashing around with something that gives splash damage rather than accuracy based. Because that's exactly what's happening in the Manticore raid, isn't it? You know, you're smashing out, you know, on auto reasonably well with, well, not reasonably well, but you are completing the targets, you know, as opposed to using the missile ship, which I don't think anybody would dare do on the BP app. I don't know.
I foresee a problem, and it's in the way they've described it. They've said both hulls will be an auto and a skill hull. If you have a sub that's going to be an auto hull, that implies the sub will be able to take damage. Now, if the sub is able to take the damage, the sub's going to be taking damage.
I said I didn't read it that way. That's not how I read it.
It said auto/skill on both of them. They're both.
It said on the overall S sets there would be no overall benefit with picking one or the other. It didn't say each one would do each target with the same amount of damage. It just said as a collective across the S set, they would end up being roughly about the same if they were used on auto. It didn't say driving them and then autoing them would be the same, if that makes sense.
I know you'll take more damage doing auto, of course, but the issue there is they're designing a target where you're supposed to be able to auto with both hulls. You're supposed to be able to do it, which implies that, yes, you're going to be taking damage. Like, it's a sub's not supposed to be taking damage, so if a sub's taking damage, it implies you're going to be taking damage no matter what. You're just going to be taking more damage.
I agree. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Okay, so let's go right back. Go back 12 months, okay? And none of this had happened, and we were still all complaining about, you know, too many holes and that sort of stuff, and PvP was broken. Not much has changed. But, okay, so in general, and hi, guys, thanks for joining. So this time last year, you opted for a certain type of hull. It was either a subsurface hull or a surface hull. You know, given the choice now and given your driving styles and your own connection and the way you can connect, because the amount of time you can spend doing this, you know, which would you prefer to go for as a first hit? Brian, what about you?
I'd take if it's going to be like the Hunter versus Fangs, I'd take the Hunters, the above option that isn't so punishing for bad connection, etc. I can drive, I've driven well, but the connection's poor, and sometimes these targets are too complex for their own good with too many particles and things like that, and the hardware acceleration hasn't done anything to help me in that regard. So
Yeah, I keep turning that on and then turn it back straight back off again at the moment. But I mean, they're puzzling it out. But yeah, no, I agree with you. And then is the BP app part of that, or is the fact that you would just rather just go good connection or bad connection? I just know that a hull system that's got splash-based weapons is probably going to do me better. Is that what you're thinking?
More the connection thing than anything. App doesn't factor in it for me at all.
Okay. How you doing, mate? You're right. I'm just going to try and turn your mic up a little bit, buddy, if you won't mind. Let me see if I can.
I'm High Lord Knight, by the way. Nice to meet all you guys.
How you doing? You okay?
Yeah, okay. I like what Brian says. I think the surface ship's going to be better because I myself like the more Russian targets versus sit there and take 10 minutes to kill a target with a sub. I fucking hate that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can remember when Stu used to play the game and that sort of stuff, and he was like that. No, this is what I want, GDR. I just want to go in there, smash through some sets, and I'll pay a couple of extra coin, but I'll just get it over and done with.
Exactly.
Yeah, and a lot of people like to go that direction, and I can understand it. You know, especially the number of things you've got to do. I mean, there's even more this year. So
yeah, they keep stacking it on. There's so many things we got to do now. It's just it gets to the point where you're like, do I want to do it? Do I not want to do it? But we put in so much time to this game, you just keep going at it. But it's just, come on, man, slow some of it down. It's just too much.
Yeah, and time is money as ever. I got that. Yeah, good. No, valid point. Got you. Samuel, what about you, mate?
I think it's one of those things we're just really going to have to wait and see. I didn't think that the forum post was inspiring for confidence, really. The last question on that forum post says, no more auto-only hulls, but autoing is how I like to play. And when they address it in the answer, it doesn't really give the impression that they understand the distinction of auto and skill hulls the way we as a player base would.
Yeah.
So I think just depending on how they tweak each of these two hulls, my concern would be perhaps they're too generalized and end up you have 4, 5, 6 different builds that are not good enough to do the targets the way we would be used to in previous raids, you know. You know, if they're tweaking these targets to be 2 very specific targets, the way we have for the Manticores and the way we have in past raids, I don't think that having 4 potential builds is really going to help.
It just is interesting, you know, there are 2 holes pretty different from each other. However, you're not going to make the wrong choice. You're not going to make the wrong choice, whichever choice you take.
Objection.
I don't know how that's physically possible.
I have multiple objections.
You can't drive a sub. You are. I mean, I'm not being pedantic, but there is.
That can auto. It's impossible. Subs have to run away and pick apart the target as they keep going away.
Yeah.
How in the world is that going to be an auto?
Yeah, unless all of a sudden it has some aura or something that doesn't cause you damage. But then, if you can auto with subs, why would you do this that never surface? I don't get it.
Yeah,
like the only way it's that what you're saying would be possible to do is if they make the 2 ships so generalized that it's not going to matter which one you pick, which then just becomes a matter of, well, what's the point in picking one over the other?
Yeah,
it's going to have to do with bonuses. I'm sure one's going to have more bonuses to something versus the other. That's my idea.
Yeah, if it is a sub and a surface hull, I think the sub is going to be single target, but like super kill that one target like really, really fast. And the other one's going to be splash based. It is interesting to think because they are like the missile CIC. It's got that berserker where you go in and go out and you get resists and damage when you do that. I guess there's no CICs for the hulls, but what if it was built into a sub where you have like 5 seconds every 15 or 20 where you take half damage and you deal more damage or whatever, and then they could code that in by figuring a base route on auto where usually you'd be in an ideal spot, but sometimes a spot where you're in when that passive triggers is suboptimal. So like you've used up 4 seconds that you wouldn't have otherwise, and you take more damage in there. That's the only way I can see it possibly working. But even if there's a subs still need to be repaired 100% before you relaunch them onto the map.
That's the bit that's gripping me. Yeah.
They really need to reconsider that again.
Only if they stop people being able to snipe their PvP fleets. That sort of stuff. That's a double-edged sword. Bringing back obviously the submarine that's actually basically a walking set of death. Basically, it's not good unless they manage to stop people sniping others PvP ships as well, which is a separate issue. I get that, but yeah, I mean, and welcome, Cut. Thanks, mate, for coming on the sidebar chat, mate. What if then? Let's go back to the previous but one siege, and it's like an ironclad with a blaster that does lots of splash damage, and then there's a cannoneer that's just got an accuracy base like the Millennium, and it's just doing hardly any damage whatsoever, but it's just picking off one ship at all because it's got no splash, and it's an accuracy based weapon. So you've got 2 surface ships. What if it's that?
Well, there was a difference between the ironclads and the cannoneers.
There was a huge difference, wasn't there? Well, there was considerable difference, but the concept is one. I mean, okay, Ironclad wasn't initially all that hot at all, was it? To be honest, and it's sort of like come better after the blinking raid system finished because that's probably changed the targets. But as a concept, the Ironclad was blat and splash, which is a bit like the Buccaneer, But the Cannoneer particularly was supposed to be a very fine item, wasn't it? You were supposed to sort of kite and just creep up to the target and take it out a bit at a time.
And that's what made the skill hole.
Yeah, which made it the skill hole. Yeah, no, exactly that. So what if they're doing that and they're going for 2 surface ships? Because there was a hint, bear in mind it wasn't the previous team, that there wouldn't be a subsurface one this time. Doesn't mean that's going to go through though. I don't know.
If it was the previous team, then it's likely that it was.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how much is being carried through and how much is not being carried through. We know for a fact that there are definitely 2 names. We know that. We know that. That they believe that you should be able to pick before it starts based on the the style of your driving, and then be able to build accordingly for the first one at least. I don't know. There was more questions than it answers almost.
And the thing is, when they say, "Oh, there's no wrong choice," people are going to make an inherent decision on what is quote unquote right or wrong, not even necessarily based on their playing style and being honest with themselves as a player, but what they can see people doing well with on videos, or maybe someone else, like how the missile mantis can do whatever target for 40 minutes and the scatters driven well do it for an hour, 42 hours, whatever. They're going to assume then that the missile hull is correct. I mean, I made that mistake. I kept taking tons of damage the first raid of this cycle, 3 months ago, 4 hours a target, 4 hours a set, whatever, and the missiles were doing it for 20, 30 minutes a set. So I figured that my choice is wrong because there's so much less repair to be had, and I could still do the other ones. It wasn't ideal because of my connection, but it's things like that. We're going to see a choice is right or wrong if we're given 2. We're going to make up criteria for why our choice is right or wrong, and people are going to argue about it on the internet because that's what we do. So no wrong choices isn't really right. You pick a style, but I think one style is going to outperform the other significantly over the course of the cycle.
I mean, Nick's there in chat and, excusing cynicism and that sort of stuff. And he's quite right. And then they've absolutely said it. Of course, some builds will be better than others, but basically, if you stick with the paired items, well, are they getting better at doing that? I'm not really sure. But they're also saying that, if you were to pick, and build both items, then clearly, of course, you would do a little bit better. Now, a little bit better. Is that like 1 or 2 coins over 4 or 5 sets? Don't really mind that then. I'll just put up with having 1 to start with. But if it's like per set and you're like 4 or 5 coins, then that's saying you've got to have both fleets rather than the very first rate. So it depends on how they judge the necessity of having 2 fleets right at the very start, or 1 fleet actually is not too bad because, bear in mind there's only 3 raids, so escalation can't be massive. There's no escalation weapons coming. There's lateral weapons coming. So thinking like cheater scatterguns, that sort of stuff. No more damage, no more power, no more reload. But these ones are making it a bit faster. Maybe they'll do that so your boats can move or something like that. I don't know what they're going to do, but it doesn't make a difference whether you choose it or don't choose it. It shouldn't make your boat perform any better.
So sticking to paired items real quick, mass augmentation nexus was garbage.
Yep.
That was paired with the Buccaneer. And this last raid, TSM, I'm using your build and I'm having a lot of fun with it, but it's not actually using the roaring barrel system that was sold with the Manti. So even now we find builds that, I mean, technically might feel suboptimal because we're not using the latest tech, but they're a lot more fun and they get the target done a lot quicker. And we might take a bit more repairs, maybe 5-10 minutes or whatever, but they work, nearly as well, maybe even better, who knows, without what Kix is recommending to us in the new weapon and special. So while that's probably a good default, everybody keep your eyes and ears open because there might be something better out there that you just haven't seen yet.
Yeah. Solex, you've been quiet, mate. Thoughts, buddy? Got anything you want to say?
Well, my thinking on the whole, everyone's thinking about the skill hull and then the auto hull. Well, obviously we have a different perspective of auto versus what Kickside thinks. But people don't realize that when you do things on auto, everything is randomized. Whether you hit, whether you miss, everything is random. Whether you kill the ship, and then that's the trajectory. It's all random. So obviously it's hard to, fix that whenever, you can't know what's going to happen.
And the problem is if it's not a fixed point of entry every single time, depending, especially if you're doing auto, and they say you're on the app and that stuff, if, look at the 120s and the 121s in the FM, depending on where they are, depends on your entry point, doesn't it? Sometimes it doesn't all happen like that, but sometimes you have a different entry point, and that can have a huge effect. And also the things like stacking, 1 minute the Hydras are stacking perfectly well, the next minute they're going all over the place, and they're not stacking. Which
and that's
obviously
why everyone uses like the Puffin or the
browsers.
Whatever.
Yeah, well they did.
But that's why in raids of recent you've had a fixed entry point. So no matter where you go in that target, you're always ending up at the same start position.
See, it's interesting. I'll just look on your event then for a minute. Right, so there's his point. Yeah, both holes will be available in the early access. Okay, one obviously via TLC, and one obviously you'll be able to get one or the other. Which is, I'm thinking we're going back to a ladder, which means probably there'll be a PvP ship on one side, and there's probably going to be this new hull on the opposite side. I'm don't know, but I'm only guessing.
It's going to be both.
It's going to be both. You're
Or
going
then left and right. You get one on one side, one on the other side. Yeah. And then in the locked, maybe in the lock behind there's a PvP or something. Don't know anyway. But the point is, when my question is, when did Blitz turn to auto? Because it hasn't always been that way. Because when you used to do original, and just think of going back to smashing people with, I don't know, MCXs and that sort of stuff. Okay. And you start going back to sort of like, there's some pretty good ships out there that we used to do Threshers and that sort of stuff. They were pure blitzing hulls. They weren't auto hulls. You get annihilated if you autoed. When did we turn a blitzing ship into something that was called an auto ship? And then we slagged it off because it couldn't auto. And yet, even now, the Manticores, whilst everyone's calling it auto, including Kickside, I don't know who started it first, whether it's us or them, it's actually a blitzing hull. And, as has been said there in chat, you drive the blitzing hull and you do far better, obviously, than if you just let it auto. And so I can see the logic in that. But if it's a true auto hull, you shouldn't need to drive it, and it can no longer be used. It shouldn't make a difference whether you blitz or whether you auto, then it should be exactly the same. Otherwise, it's not an auto hull.
The issue with these ones are they're saying that they're both auto and skill. So it's basically both your ships are going to be the scatter Manticore of this raid, where you can drive them and do better, but at the end of the day, if you try and auto, you're still going to take more damage. It's just both ships are going to be the scatter Manti. You're not going to have a missile Manticore anymore. It's just a blitz. Both are going to be blitz.
Yeah, I mean, because it's caused a lot of angst for people. Autoing and then driving, and the difference between the damage. And I think that's caused a lot of annoyance, which the term autoing is actually, although we do it and that sort of stuff, and the app definitely leads you that way because you do nothing else, you know, it's taken the game down an avenue that personally I don't like, because it's almost saying then, right, now let's base everything off of auto. But they're never going to do that, because there's still people playing on PCs, which if you drive, then you can dictate how you take the damage, unless the damage is just going to be blanket per target. And then, well, why are we playing the game at all?
But that's what the community's been asking for this from the start. It's we don't want as many chores, and instead of lowering the amount of chores you have to do, they're just giving us the option to either blitz them or auto them.
But
So you
only
don't actually have to
because
do it.
you need so many gazillion points.
Yeah, they've tried to make a fix, but they've done it the wrong way. Instead of lowering the amount you have to get or increasing the amount of points you
Yeah.
get from a single
So-
target,
So
they're just
do the
giving
whole
us
thing.
auto.
Do the whole thing. Go back to where we were 3 to 4 years ago. Bring the prices back down, you know, and then just say, you know, can you remember you used to do like 5 targets and you were done? You were finished. You know, the whole raid was finished. You could do you could do a raid in the evening, and you'd be like that. 6 sets, finish, job done. That was it. And whether you blitzed it and that sort of stuff, and it cost you 70 coins, 80 coins, because you blitzed all the way through, you know, or whether you stopped then and just let them auto, which is what Stu used to do, and they'd be like that, yeah, it cost me 120, 130 coins, but I'm done. You know, that's their decision. But then there's endless going on and on and on and on, getting a billion points, you know, and that sort of stuff. It's just mind-blowingly dull.
Well, you could go back to the old school raid cycles where, while we still have that, you go up either avenue, you could go right back to the day where you have targets that are numbered and you have to hit each target in that format right the way up.
Oh yeah, the numbers game, yeah.
That was weird.
Yeah, I remember that. Remember you used to do the 1 to 50s or whatever it was. You know, you used to climb the
Yeah.
tree, didn't you, and get them all, and then get a bonus at the end.
But it just means that when you're doing it in that format, it takes less time because you're not grinding out X billion points. And at the same time, you have a great variation in what the targets look like. And you're not necessarily restricted to having to have a top fleet. Your top fleet can maybe do numbers 40 to 50, and then you don't need the top fleet, and some of your older tech can do the rest. So your repairs are cut down, and you're getting to drive more than one fleet in your raid, so it shouldn't be as boring as well.
Okay. All right. So food for thought. There's some, you know, that's already a half an hour gone, but the last little thing I want to talk about for skirmishing, if you wouldn't mind, which is, and I don't know if he's actually got any venom. What are your thoughts on if they allow the Proto tides into the raid set? What level of target should be capable of finishing, if any? Or don't you think it should be in the raid set at all? And it's just an anomaly that they've decided to put an extra set of 4 ships in, ideally, to justify the need, you know, to have an SSRB that nobody really wanted changing in the first place.
It shouldn't do the S set, no. It should do the A set better, but not dramatically better than the previous fleet.
So, because I'm just thinking the fixed time isn't as bad, but the overall build time of a complete fleet is near to the KDs. Near. Okay, so if you're talking corresponding, you know, build times and that sort of stuff, you know, the KDs can do tier 7. Do you think then obviously the Proto series then should be made a little bit more useful? Bear in mind that they're trying to sell us still Proto cents. In, you know, go and buy your Proto cents. I saw a deal for 105 quid or something like that today. You know, which is like $150 or something. Should they be able to do a tier 6, tier 7, you know, and be able to kite and then get away with just like a skill hole, or should they be cast as the blitz hole but for the next tier down? I don't know.
The issue with that TSM is that they're moving away from what our setup would be for the SSRBs, so you would still be requiring a refit to do that anyway in terms of armor.
No, I agree with you. No, I'm not discounting that fact. I'm just saying that, you know, it seems really, really expensive. You know, and I built them because personally I built one. In fact, I built one of each fleet because I didn't need to build. I refused to build 2 sets of Manticores, and I just stuck with one completely, and I drove it like a skill hole, because I was really frustrated with the method that they delivered this particular raid series, which we're stuck with for a while, because they're going to become obviously the targets on the sea, which is why I thought, right, I'm going to go for the, let's call blitzing hole, the auto hole, because if I'm going to be going collecting resources and I'm at work this time, next year and that sort of stuff, I'm wanting to drive missile ships around, because they ain't going to be doing anywhere near enough targets. So I don't know.
It could be like, if we look at the SSRB for the Proto Centurion, it has nothing to do with the map targets. The map targets had rockets, had missiles that you could shoot down. Well, the SSRB doesn't have anything that it has mines. So who's to say that the Proto, Tide Seekers will not be able to hit these targets because they're specifically made for the SSRB, unless you have a specific build for it. Because the Protos, since you don't have to have, counters on that for the SSRB, but you do need them for, you don't really need them, but it helps a lot in the map targets. So
yeah, valid point.
That's one thing.
I think the thing with that is the prototypes existed before SSRBs, but Proto-Sense only existed after SSRBs. They made prototypes because they couldn't balance last year's skirmish raid cycle properly. The map targets, what became uranium afterwards, for the hunters. People were taking way too much damage, even driving their hunters, they felt. So rather than buffing the hunters or tuning down the target, they made us build an entirely new fleet for, sweet.
I think it's actually a bit worse than that. I think rather than giving us the center of the old dubs, and then making you have to use a combination of ships to go in there that was already there. The sets from last year, we could have gone in there and gone, right, this section needs, fang tubes, this section needs such and such, and then collectively, so you've got to go into collective, you can actually take out the center of this and you get a shared wealth. Great, no problem at all. No, they changed the targets because they wanted us to use new fleets. It's as simple as that. There's no gray area. That was a monetization thing as far as I'm concerned. There is no requirement to do it.
And now it's scrapped, and I'm sure a lot of I built Proto-Sense when I didn't think I had anything else to build or didn't want to build any new Conqueror Defender. No, I don't care. I'll just go build a Proto-Sense because my raid fleet's done, and my Proto-Sense fleet is half done, half ranked, and now it's well, I know they're basically useless. I knew they were useless before because the Hydra could deal with 103s, but I did like the idea of, what's a 2.7.5 ship capable of? Let's see if we can figure that out. And it's well, this isn't supported anymore, so there's no point in doing that going forward. And there's really no point, I feel in building the other two proto ships, or one, because I don't even know what the garrison technically is. So they kind of just left that dead in the water, but they're still selling offers for build times for that ship and for probably fully built feeds of that ship, but I'm not sure. There's things like that where it's why? Why did they do this? We already have something that's significantly better than that in every capacity. And any player who's been paying attention at all knows that.
It's really the capital ships and that sort of stuff. I know they're trying to understand and then consider that like the KDs. Yeah, we understand what we've done here and that sort of stuff. So other type ships, we should try and bring them forward and let them do the reasonably do the T7s, and actually maybe once they've gone past the. So let's just say that the new tier 8 and that sort of stuff, maybe they should be allowed to do the old version. And I know I saw that on the live stream they did on Wednesday, and I know they acknowledged the fact that the Proto series, whilst they are going to fill it, and there is going to be a Proto assault ship, there's we're going to have the Centurion, we're going to have the Tide and that sort of stuff, and then obviously we're going to have whatever's coming next as well. But then they're sort of stuck. What to do with the garrison? They really can't work out what to do with it. So whether they finish the whole things off, or we just get 3 sides, or whether they just allow us to put our FM fleet in and do the 4th one, and let's just not have a fleet at all, that would be a really sensible thing to do, and just let us be able to go and do the garrison side, a reasonable sort of amount of damage, and then you can just suck it up and go, well, if I'm going to take my freaking dragons in there, I'm not going to get smashed up, but if I've got the stuff that's on the water, then I know where I am. I don't know.
So
Not to mention that the SSRBs are also in the R&D. So people who do not have R&D, they have to kill 5 SSRBs of a certain type to actually complete it.
Yeah, because they
There's-
updated the R&D, didn't they, just to be able to do that? Because it did
Who-
used to say dubs. So.
Who is the idiot that did that?
yeah,
That is
like
just ridiculous for
Redonkulous, yeah.
anyone at that level to have to do. You have to have someone much, much, much bigger than you prep the thing
To
for
help
you.
you, yeah.
And even at that, the siege side is ridiculously hard solo anyway.
So
I
I'm
think
gonna
that-
read. I'm gonna read off this post from Wrong Thinker. It's on page 3 of the official discussion. I kept it open. To the second quote. To the second point, there are 2 reasons for moving forward with the Proto Assault and trying to finish what we started. First, leaving thing unfinished is par for the course with BP, but we're changing our philosophy to avoid that. We don't want another 7 Deadly Sins issue where we just leave things unfinished. Second, leaving the SSRB imbalanced by having protos for some sides and not others will make making further improvements to it more difficult since it is structurally asymmetrical. We're not quite sure how Garrison fits into the equation because it's outside the core cycle loop, etc., etc. So let's break this down. There are several issues with this. Leaving things unfinished is par for the course. Yeah, we don't want another 7 Deadly Sins issue. The thing is, 7 Deadly Sins were lambasted by players left, right, and center because they were overly complicated and pointless. The SSRBs are overly complicated and pointless because they're inefficient in doing the thing they're supposed to do. We've learned that even in building Proto-Centurions, which is the hull that you should be building for these things, it's much easier to just take the regular fleets, go out and auto 103s with Hydras is going to get you more base parts per time repaired than doing SSRBs. With the Proto-Sense, it's so hard to finish them because of the walls. They tried to build this around the Proto-Sense, and they couldn't even do that. But by leaving it imbalanced, it'll make improving it further harder. Yeah, no one cares about SSRBs. They're useless. They have no point. They suck. Everything they've tried to do, bad at it. Efficiency for parts, bad at it. Showing off a new hull, bad at it. R&D, the worst at it. Again, no one that should have never been done. Not sure how Garrison fits. It doesn't matter. Let it die. You tried a thing. That's okay. It failed. That's okay. But doing this and making it part of a new player's rise up through the game while making them have the best fleet, having them make them build Hydras to do one part of it just for that is awful. It needs to die. There's blueprints that are now locked out of the game from the old dubs that we can't get anymore, Zen Shells 1, etc., because there's SSRBs and not dubs. Something needs to be done about that as well. It's not an open question at all. Like, what you did is bad. Just admit it. Like, maybe not necessarily backtrack with it, but make ways to make it better. Tune it down.
Yeah, that's my concern about the... hey, Mary, how you doing?
I'm all right. Just got back from vacation camping.
Right, good to see you, buddy. You're right. The thing that I'm concerned about is, and it is a quick fix because it is only the walls. There's actually nothing really wrong with the hull itself. The Proto Centurion is a very good hull. It's got an awful lot of, guts about it. It just can't shoot for the bloody walls. That's the thing that's really annoying. If it could shoot for the walls in 2 or 3 volleys, it'd be fine. The fact that it takes 14 or 15 is a joke. And I said this on the Midweek show.
The walls in the 120 and up. I mean, with the Garrison targets, you guys sit there for like 30 plus seconds or a couple minutes just to knock down a wall to get to the turret behind it or the building. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I get why they're doing it. I mean, I get that, they want those cryo turrets to come out and then fire at you, cause the ice wall, causes generic blast damage, causes then obviously, I understand that, a bit of splash damage, damages the whole fleet across the wall, but not as much as this. And it's something that they can turn that SSRB target from a complete flop into something really, really good in a nanosecond. But I know the fact we've asked the question, we've asked them to turn the walls down. I know Ford has several times, and they've flat blank said no.
Or just
now,
up the
get
wall
some credence back and just turn the damn things down to actually where you can go and do an SSRB with approximately about an hour's damage. even on auto. An hour's damage, I think people will be generally quite happy, because then you can auto, fill up on your kit, and then go and do a 4 or 5 hour fix. And then while you come home from work, you've got all your base parts, you're done. You know, it's the same sort of thing for your uranium. You need these things to be able to carry on in the evening time. So if you could do those in the morning, you know, do one as you go to work sort of stuff, go, thank you very much, that one's done. Lunchtime, smash the other one. When you get home, you're full up on everything, and you can actually play the bloody game and not do this dull as hell freaking resource stuff, which grips me to death.
Well, we all know that, you know, we ask for something and then they just say no and go the exact opposite direction. This whole players first thing, yeah, it sounds great on the surface, but unless they actually start listening to us and listening to you guys, what you're saying, what's going on, nothing is going to change. Absolutely nothing. And they can preach to their blue in the face. It doesn't matter. Actions speak louder than words, and right now, they're saying nothing, truly.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying there's not nothing, because, I mean, look, we're getting weekly updates. We are getting them doing their show regularly and that sort of stuff. You know, their eye contact and their player engagement it does need a lot to be desired, but some people just aren't good in front of a camera. You know, I've got a voice for radio, you know, and certainly not a face for it, for TV. So that's just the way it is. But, you know, you try to make yourself engage in that stuff, but if you put yourself out there, you know, if you're putting your head above the parapet, you know, you've got to be prepared to take some shots. Okay, so these guys are doing that, you know, and everything I'm reading on their forums is saying, hey, you're damn right. You are right. We have made a huge mistake, and we need to correct this. Now, we're only in the acknowledgement stage at the moment. Whether they do it or don't do it, I don't know. But one thing they have done, you know, they've done a couple of things, tried to make chat more engaging by opening up the world chat. We didn't like it to start with, and some people still hate it and that sort of stuff. But in half busy, you know, in all the worlds, I see that world chat going ballistically quick and that sort of stuff. So some people are using it, you know, and if it's just for the banter, it doesn't really matter. At least it sounds like chat of old, you know, in your sector, when there was like a full sector and the chat was like blasting away. So I'm not saying they fixed the game at all, but at least they've got people chatting and having the ability to chat to each other. Whether we like this fleet thing, you know, the new thing that's come up on the sidebar on the right, you know, so you can launch your ships from being on the sea. For doing shores, I have to say I like it, because it's a bloody sight quicker. You know, you can dump off res and then come straight back out with an auto, you know, like Buccaneers in the 67s. It's just snappy, quick, no lag, and you can just keep going. But there are some things that are terrible. There just really are some things though that
that mech launch does kind of get rid of the whole sniping problem that gets brought up in the forums repeatedly. So I mean, that's a bonus right there. I don't have to look at, you know, the weekly whining about people, oh, snipers. So that's a positive there, I acknowledge.
You say that, but it's only helpful when it actually works. And for the most part, I find it doesn't.
I'm getting used to it now. I've managed to adapt a little bit, and I was going to do some bits later on. We'll have a little whinge and that sort of stuff and a chat for an hour, and then I thought we'd just break down and try and make people's lives a little bit easier on the game, because I've been looking at some different things that may seem obvious, but it may help some people out in some areas of the game that aren't quite as, you know, as obvious, unless you didn't sort of like, you know, like the comms chat thing, and a little bit like, you know, putting your ships in the right location to make that new format much easier for you to use and that sort of stuff. So, and hitting bases as well, because that's all gone a bit goofed at the moment. Not that I'm going to be hitting bases, because Venom knows I'm rubbish at it anyway. So I've lost all my mojo's gone for hitting bases. But anyway, not to worry.
You'll still do okay.
Yeah. I do okay as long as I don't pick anything particularly hard. Oh dear. Right. Well, anyway. Well, it is what it is. Okay. So where are we to at the moment? Let's talk about timelines. Do you agree with them trying to bring things back online? Bearing in mind, I was just looking at the next month cycle. Okay. So to bring the raid back onto the 6th, okay, is the first Thursday of the month and not the second Thursday, which is the standard. So if they were going to bring things back online, I'd expect it to be the 13th. Which it hasn't been, but that's probably because if you're going to go 3 weeks after that, then for another bounty, actually it's only a short month, and it'd been the 4th then of October, which would have messed up then the October raid, because if that had been the 4th, the October raid wouldn't have been until about the 18th. whereas it's probably going to be on the 11th. So I don't know. Do we suffer the pain now, and just have to suck it up, buttercup, and get on with it, or do we? I don't know.
If they put the raid, not next raid, but the raid after back to the second Thursday, but keep this one on the first Thursday, that means we have an extra week of build time.
Yeah, we do. I mean, I was sort of hoping they'd push and just flip them on their heads and just push bounty back to the raid, and then just put the raid and just flip them on their heads and just push it right back. You know, I don't know.
They should get rid of bounty altogether. It's stupid. I'm sorry. I mean, yeah, it's supposed to promote PvP, but it really doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have the right thing. I mean, I don't, guys in chat in the sidebar there. What do you think? I mean, they've given us the extra month, and I just think the lack of people that are out actually hitting targets on VXP. Then, you know, because a lot of people are using their mega ships to get the VXP for their PvP stuff. I've seen a few Manticores out there knocking around and killing off the 105s and that sort of stuff, because obviously they're getting the defender tokens, which don't take a huge amount to rank up. There's not much PvP stuff out there. So is that because, is that possibly because the extra month actually did give us that bit of a window? I don't know. And the people haven't got a great deal to do, apart from a stack of TLCs, whether you choose to do them or not. But I don't know.
I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea because this is the 5th Manticore raid, and it's the right time. We're already way over on a fucking cycle. So it's the perfect time to start a raid on a new cycle and say, okay, we're going to do it the first week of the month from now on, and that's where it's going to be. This is our 5th raid for Manticores. That's a lot, man. Holy shit.
Yeah, it is a lot. And now, are they going to leave it then? Is that going to be the new thing? Is it going to be the first week of each month?
That's the idea. It's going to stay the first week from now on until who knows when it changes.
Okay.
That's the whole point.
Well, and that will make the 3rd week then for obviously the 3rd week of the month then for the bounty. You know, I mean, I did see some stuff in the chat rooms and that sort of stuff and on forums where someone said, well, why can't we, have things released in groups for bounty? So, if you get to the top, you get a pack and you get, like 3 of the ships out of the 6 types and that sort of stuff, and then you could have like 3 3-month raids, and the 4th one, so you can have, 3 raids, and then don't change the cycle. You can actually then have a bounty event instead, and then do 3 more raids, and then a bounty event, and then just do it that way. So the 4th month is a bounty itself. But then again,
a fantastic idea.
You know why they're not going to do it, because they've now got 2 raids a month, basically, haven't they? So it'll be about revenue. So if they were to do that and drop out the bounties, then something's going to cost us more. They're not going to halve their revenue, i.e. take out, basically half the number of venues and that sort of stuff, and to go and take a little bit of income. But I think it would be better. I think it'd be better received if we just said, right, let's have 3 months worth of cycles, and the 4th month is and then that's three bounties a year, and that's what we've got to worry about. And you can split the holes down accordingly.
Yeah, but you know what?
Increase the revenue, to be honest, because then people are able to focus on one event per month. Like, all right, my money's going to go all towards the PvE this month, and this month, and this month, and now it's PvP. Now I can put more towards PvP this month because I don't got to spend it on the PvE this month as well. So actually, they make more. They have more participation instead of worrying about, all right, do I got to save my money for the PvE this month or PvP? Because that's where people are right now.
Yeah, go on.
I think bounty's almost over because almost everything is almost released at tier 7. So there's like 1 or 2 more, and then everything's out there. Then after that, I don't even know if bounty's going to be worth doing anymore. Like, what else is there going to be?
Yeah, a bit like the fact. I don't know.
There
are certain things that come into this game and then they leave just as quickly as they arrive. They come with a big fanfare and that sort of stuff, and they drop out massively quick. And I don't know whether bounty now it's gone past its 12-month window. Has it achieved its aim? Could it be delivered better? Could it be completely delivered in a different manner? I'd like to see prize packs where you just get like 1 or 2 holes and 3 or 4 different weapons and that sort of stuff, and then you can put them on what you fancy, back to what we used to do. You know, you can build the MCXs with freaking launchers if you wanted, or put missiles on, or you can put scatter guns if you wanted to on draconian ships, and it's up to you. But the problem is,
I know what you mean. I like the old idea where you could come up with anything that you thought might be good, and it might work and it might not, and then you fix that. But now everything's like, this is only made for this is only made for that, and you can't use it anywhere else. That's not cool.
but I don't know. Venom, what are your thoughts, mate? I mean, the fact is now, as we were saying, it was 200 and something specials and weapon types if you amalgamate them all together and that sort of stuff. Is it simply because the numbers are so massive now that you can't do that? Or do you think it's just because they want to structure it so that you can only hit with X, Y, and Z so that they can build the target system, i.e. your base, to counter it? I don't know.
They're trying to micromanage PvP too much. That's the long and short of it. They just want to micromanage everything at this point. There's so many specials there that I think they feel it's almost necessary for them to micromanage it.
I think that's a necessity. Yeah, that's what I think the same. I honestly feel that they have no choice because there's so much content out there. If you just open up the Pandora's box and just said, right, you can put anything on this ship, we'd end up with some crazy ass stuff that they never even contemplated that would just break the game.
But that just comes down to the fact that they don't understand the game themselves.
Well, the flip side as well is that you also will have a large number of the player base complaining that they don't know what to put on it if they don't specify it.
Yeah, but they need to learn how to read a
We get that now.
Yeah, we've had that for a long time, and you're right. People do understand how to read a blueprint, but then again, you know, you've got some players who just come on in and just go, "I just want to have some fun. Just give me a ship, and I can just go out and drive it. So tell me what the build is. I just want to be able to drive it and go and hit stuff. I don't want to have to design it and that sort of stuff." No,
but that defeats the purpose of the game. It's a strategy game.
I understand. No, I understand. Mate. Yeah, exactly. It's not just a battle game. It's a strategy game. The concept of having to, and that's the bit I like. You know, and that's why I build so many ships. It's not that I want to go out and smash things up them. I actually want to make sure I can get them down to the minimum amount of damage. You know, that's why I like trying to beat Kickstarter their own game, and I always have done. That's why I like twinkling around with the PvE stuff, because at the end of the day, you've got a fixed target and you just keep tinkering away until, you know, I'm 6 rebuild all my Manticores. I don't care. The fact is, I know I can, you know, do as I have done, you know, if I can get them down to 1 coin per S, you know, quite nicely, as same as, you know, Derpy has as well and that sort of stuff, and a few other players, you know, then that's fine. But it's a different concept, as we said. PvP is something different. It's two mindsets, isn't it? It's the defender versus the attacker, and actually Kixia taking out the equation. It's down to the two players. Kixia just provide the battlefield. That's all they provide. What you do is put yourself up against another real human being, and it's your skill set against their skill set. And that's reality in life. And that's what we wanted. That's what we wanted.
Game. I mean, it's like they want to micromanage everything so bad, but yet they feel at that even because they released the latest, the Witch Doctor, but alongside it they have that corrosive turret set that pretty much guarantees that any other ship is not going to be able to just blast in a base. It locks every other ship out.
Yeah.
So they essentially break the game with every new content release.
But yeah, they've done that with every single turret that's come out, where as soon as a turret comes out, the ship previous to that damage was just completely negated. You could not use it except for defense or fleet versus fleet. If you try to hit a base with it, it's dead, which forced them to put out these ridiculous armors with just stupid deflections on them.
Except for explosive.
They're micromanaging something they do not understand nor comprehend fully, and they're failing epically at it. And every time we tell them how to fix it, so
where do you think then? Good, no, it's good. It's good. Okay, so where? And this is exactly what I'm looking. Exactly the argument I was hoping we were going to get. Okay, discussion. Where do you think then the PvP refactory is going to go? Where? What are they going to do? Because and Hefe is in chat there, which is quite nice that he's come in. You know, turrets like the ones we've got now that are creating dot damage and that sort of stuff, which is something that we haven't seen, you know, yet, obviously with deflection, and it doesn't really help having deflection because dot still burns away and burns away. Yeah, you can deflect, but the more turrets there are, the more and it stacks additive and that sort of stuff, you know, and it's a pain in the backside, especially when longer channels are coming back in and that sort of stuff, you know. So that's going back to almost old school playing, but the concept in the last two tiers, tier 6, tier 7, hasn't worked in that manner. You know, yes, we've had an adder turret, but it was pretty rubbish anyway. You know, this time they've given us something that's like, bloody hell, this is actually a bit concerning, and no one's hitting. You know, because if you've got those 4 turrets in there and that sort of stuff, and you've got a little bit of a pathway for people to actually drive them.
13th.
No. Yeah, I know people are hiding them behind their OPs and all sorts of stuff, you know, just to catch people out.
I believe corrosive plate will be in this bounty.
Wouldn't surprise me at all. But I don't know if that's the fix. That doesn't fix, that fixes the immediate issue.
It's not a fix, but it's going to be there.
It has to be, doesn't it?
If they were going to have corrosive plate, why wouldn't they put it in the FM? Because then that kills bounty for everything that isn't Witch Doctor.
Well, if it's not in now, yeah, exactly. Because they're going to take a scan, obviously, of everybody's bases and that sort of stuff. And then the next one, again, after this one, God, you know, anybody that's gone and put all those corrosives in there, who's going to go in and hitting those damn things?
They did a similar thing with the high cannon where they just nerfed the damage. But I have a feeling they're going to fail at that as well, as they have been failing at PvP in total. Whereby they're going to forget the dot damage, and the dot damage is the problem to start with.
But I think it's potentially better or worse, and I don't know yet. Depends on how they manage to do it. But I think they may just do away with, if they could cut 3 zeros off of armor plate, and they could cut and get rid of deflection altogether, and go back to the beginning, and just say, right, from this point forward, you can only hit these set targets in, you know, with this tier 8 series and that sort of stuff, and the tier 7, you know, almost revert back to not a reset, not a hard reset, but a virtual reset. And then they could sort of like, but that would mean changing all the blueprints, every single one, you know, which is why I've sort of advised in my alliance is really don't build too much at the moment, because we don't know where they're going with this PvP thing.
So
we know what they want to do. We don't know how they're going to implement it.
But it doesn't really matter, because what we want, you know, in the short term, we're only providing a knee-jerk reaction, and that's what they want. They're creating a demand with what they're doing, and then supplying a response to that, which players are then going to pay for. So there's not really much motivation for them to do too much in way of changes. You know, really all they would be doing changes for is to reduce the amount of complaining that their CMs have to deal with.
The only thing is, I mean, they'll do adjustments, and that's fine, but it's not going to be what Venom wants. It's not going to be what I want. It's not going to be what Cuttlefish wants, what Nick wants, that stuff. We're still going to have to go out there and do some small tweaks to these holes. That's why I went through that last, you know, event, and I went, I'm not getting all those turret, you know, build tokens. I want all the freaking ship build tokens, because we're definitely going to have to do some adjustments afterwards, because they'll do the generics, and then alliances and individuals and that sort of stuff will do the fine tuning, you know, to get that 5% difference or the 2% difference. And that, as it always did, you know, and when we have some really good hitters on here and that sort of stuff, you know, when base hitting was massive, and that 2% could mean the difference between losing a base and winning a base, you know. It used to be really that fine detail. And that's what is missing. It's too much. I'm either in the back of your base, just driving around trying to kill your OP, or I'm nowhere near the channel. You know, I'm just smashed before I get anywhere near it.
I agree with you. And in terms of what you're saying about potentially needing minor refits after the refractor, that's all well and good. But if the attitude that they have and how they're developing things continues, are we going to have a series of refactors as they keep developing more content over the next year, 2 years, or however long the game lasts?
Well, I'm hoping they're going to do a refactor, you know, that they'll reschedule what they've done to this point with the acknowledgement of where they want to go. Surely they must have like long-term goals, mid-term goals, short-term goals, you know, in the general, you know, they must have be thinking about T8. You know, it's like graphics card. You know, you bring out a series, you're developing the next series, but you're already blue sky thinking about the third series. You know, so if you're not following a line, you know, a progressive line of pattern, you know, then it's pretty foolish, isn't it? So with a bit of luck, the fact that they're, yes, and when it's going to happen, I don't know, probably at the very end of tier 7, you know, when the last one's out and that sort of stuff, before we get tier 8, which is probably end of October, it wouldn't surprise me, you know, if they haven't rebalanced by then don't bloody introduce tier 8. Don't do it. Wait. Let's get this done properly first.
Yeah.
That's the
Go back to defense percentage, and then fix everything that way, and then bring in slowly the deflections again. That's like the really only way that I see that they could fix everything is go back to defense and then go back over to deflection to make it balance.
Yeah, I agree. Hi, Lord. Go on, you go, mate.
Yeah, the idea from what I've read throughout the pages, I mean, you guys know a lot of stuff, and I know some stuff too, but from what I've gathered is they're going to release everything from Bounty and all these Tier 7 turrets and all the new holes. Once all that's released, they're going to do a refactor. Everything's going to be adjusted. So until it's all out, we won't see the change.
And that's my worry. So a little bit, I mean, we said that before as well, a little bit like the tier 6 holes, when the very last one, which was the cannon hole and that sort of stuff, when it came out, as a a base hitting hole in the PvP era, no one really built it because in the day we would already moved on to the next tier. And then people are like, well, it would have been good, but actually this next thing's even better. So I'm not going to bother, and that's my problem. Are we just going to go, well, thanks guys for the ride. It's been good fun, but now we've refactored, we've done everything. You can sort of forget that series, put it away, because here's this new shiny T8 hole, and it's got all the new stats, and it's all good and shiny. But actually, your tier 7 stuff, which is okay, and you might get in some bases, but actually, you've still got to do a bit of a rebuild. Even to bring it up to standard, which is blatantly going to have to happen. They can't literally do acknowledging every person's single build that's out there, because I mean, even if you look at witch doctors and you look at onslaughts and that sort of stuff, there's some crazy ass shit on these ships.
Yeah, I agree, but I'm hoping. Here's my hope. My hope is I hope they, after all this stuff is released, they nerf down like a lot of the stuff, like the deflection and all that shit, to where you don't need 6 million deflection, to where maybe it's like 1 or 2, to bring it back into balance, to where you have to figure out what pieces of armor you want to put on. And then you can use a whole fleet, not just one ship.
Yeah, a bit like devaluing currency and that sort of stuff. Like knock a couple of zeros off everything. If it's as easy as that, I don't know. I mean, I'm not into the maths of it, but so we can't keep climbing a huge escalation tree like we have been. And then they've acknowledged that, because this deflection thing should never have had to have come in. But the way they climbed, which obviously made the dock have to climb, because we went from things that were like sort of 17 tons in the dock, and then all of a sudden it started going up, and then we're at 50 50 gazillion and that sort of stuff. And what's the next one? 100 for T8 and that sort of stuff. It's got to stop, otherwise it's crazy.
That's not the problem. It's just the large escalation steps that were taken. Instead of going 1 foot, 2 foot feet, they decided to go 50, 100 feet. That's where the problems happened.
So
Go on,
I definitely think that's part of it. What I want to see from the PvP refactor, first of all, is accurate turret damage numbers. When you click on a turret in your base and you see its specials and what it's surrounded by and all of that, that you would be able to see based on what you currently have equipped, its actual final damage as it would deal to a ship before siege battery, etc. And a crit, if applicable, and a dot. I know nothing about how dots work, because I watched something FA did last night or Wednesday talking about dots, and I have no idea how anyone could even possibly come to the conclusion that that's how dots work. Like what was that nonsense? And just things like that, where it's this turret deals 100,000 damage per pellet, or 200,000 a shot, 600,000 on a crit, and this deals this one stack deals 1,000 damage per second, up to a maximum of 10 stacks for 10,000 damage per second. Just things like that. That needs to be there so that the deflection numbers themselves, like you can have a context for them, which is really what matters, not necessarily so much the numbers. And it was like someone else just said, where it was don't have the jump be so big from 150,000 and 200,000 armor to 2 million armor, from a few 100,000 damage to millions of damage, to completely invalidate the tier below, because that's awful. That's a real feel bad for anyone who's just getting in, or Mr. Raid or Mr. Bounty, or doesn't have all that stuff, or doesn't have the weapons to put on, which then add deflection, which I actually think is a nice thing with the weapons add deflection, because you can sort of build in another deflection if you want at the cost of losing damage. So that's a trade-off that you can pick. But all those things, I think, and please buff explosive turrets, because I actually did math and checked just now, and the thing that deals the most explosive damage per shot is the Vulture 2. It's not even an explosive turret. It's the
secondary
Vulture
damage.
2. What the heck is that? Like, I'm getting the cat mortars now in the FM because I think they're going to buff the explosive turrets because they have to. Those
'Cause they're
things were
weak.
garbage.
Yeah. They're notional, aren't they? Very much so. Even though we can actually have 8 now, they have to be all 8 of the same, I have to say. But
Even
it's,
then, it doesn't match. It's not close to the Vulture's damage. And the Cold Snap, we have a CIC that negates Cold Snap effects. What's the point now?
yeah,
it's boost there, Brian. You forget, the auras from the tactical mods you can put on your buildings.
No, even with 5 fire supports, it won't match. It's not even close. Explosive turret damage is garbage.
Give me a minute.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, here we go. We've got a bit of math there.
Live math.
Percentages.
I think
bottom.
the cat mortar, I think, was like 110 something per salvo, was like almost 120. And considering that the base damage per salvo on the Cold Snap wasn't that much higher, maybe like 130, 140, the base explosive damage on a Vulture without any fire supports and without critical hits is 200,000. So yeah, not even close. And you can talk about splash all you want, but we live in a world where it's spotters and sloths, so that's irrelevant now.
Yeah, go figure.
It kills everything. Doesn't matter what you put in your base.
I think we need to just sit down. The whole discussion we're having breaks right down to this concept of balance.
Yeah.
And we're talking about that in the context of the Refactor and what we'd like to see. But I think on a wider scope, I think for the community to have some sort of motivation and hope post-Refactor, we need them to put out something, some sort of statement or plan or vision where we can see how they plan to deal with the issue of power creep, because that's how we've got to this point. You talked about them having short-term plans, medium-term plans. Let's see them put out something that tells the player base, this is how we're going to address power creep across our future content release.
Yeah, no, very much so. Yeah, I mean, I think. Well, I don't know, but I think before they actually enact and do the Refactor, I think we need a clear and honest. This is what we're going to have to do it. We've talked about it. We know it's coming and that sort of stuff. Okay, but tell us what it is you're going to do, and give us a soak period so we actually understand what that means. Right. So Venom's got a chart, and then Brian's going to talk.
Right.
I'll double check because I was getting about half of what you're getting, but I wasn't factoring.
That's the values that
I didn't count
I've
crits.
seen.
So
the crit is the top value. Ignore the bottom value for now. That's being fixed. But again, it's 243,000 per shot and 486 with a crit.
If the crit comes in, yeah, exactly. I made about 250k is what I was thinking you need to be doing. If it's against all of them.
So that's right. I forgot. Fuel munitions does explosive damage and crit chance.
Yeah.
And I think this too, I think, is more explosive damage. Okay, so I was wrong.
It sucks. It still sucks.
I mean, it still sucks.
It's not even close to any of the turrets we have in any other weapon type.
And the thing is, if they're going to have to structure their content releases around the Refactor, because if they buff this explosive so much, then you need to either run, I think the missile gets explosive deflection, like 3 missiles, or you have to run onslaughts, which isn't really like a choice in a cyclical sort of meta thing. There's like maybe 2 choices.
Yeah, I'll just say quickly, and Nick's brought it up there. Okay, so Wayne, as you know, obviously he does these calculators and that sort of stuff. So these are just basic spreadsheets because he works for his job in Excel and that stuff, which is why he creates them that way. You know, it does understand, or sorry, it does assume that you have the understanding that like you can't put two of the same special on, because in the game you can't do it. So while he's just doing drop-down menus for Excel on there, and it's not a web-based, you know, it's an Excel spreadsheet using obviously Google, online capabilities. You know, he's just sharing his spreadsheet and people can access it. That's how he works it. So it does take some ounce of understanding that you know you can't put on more than 5 fuel munitions and stuff. So those drop-down menus are obvious, but you actually could. Then if you can just jump up there, you could actually your special 1, special 2 could actually technically be the same. You know. He is working, you know, you could put the same special on again twice or 3 times even and get some crazy numbers. But, you know, that isn't the case. You won't be able to do that. So there is a version 3 coming of this where it sort of like picks up the pictures and that sort of stuff. But it does sort of like need you to have a little bit of, understanding of the game of, you know, what you can and can't do. There's certain things that he's trying to block off, like things that can't stack with other things and that sort of stuff. But you know, work in progress. It's not B. So he's letting people use it. But obviously, you know, he's not stating that it's accurate. It's just a guide. It's helping a lot of people, I think. But
I will say I've seen the spreadsheet and it is huge.
Yeah, it's a monster, isn't it? Yeah.
For those who just see this page, this is tiny in comparison to what actually is behind the scenes of that. It is massive, and to do things like blocking it off isn't just as simple as clicking one button. It is quite a bit more difficult than people think. So just for now, use a little bit of your knowledge, because getting it this far is just a huge amount of work. I've seen it. It's just massive.
Yeah, just think about obviously where Huggy started and where he sort of ended up and that sort of stuff. You know, this is in its early infancy and that sort of stuff. So we're getting there. You know, we're right back at the early stage and that sort of stuff. But at least, you know, Wayne's having a good stab at this because it's taken a lot of the mystification out of some of the stuff. You know, and he's doing an awful lot of work here and planning and that sort of stuff because we don't know where the refractory is going, which means he's going to have to do new figures and those sort of stuff. So it's a bit of a beast, but you know, he'll get there. Like I said, the new one that's coming out already, you know, you drop down the special and it gives you the picture, so which is nice. So because a lot of people are very visual and that sort of stuff. So if you're really not sure what it's named and what it's called and that sort of stuff, at least you can just keep going through the special and go, that's the one. I know what it looks like now. You know, and vice versa. You see a picture of something, you go, what is it? What does it do? Then you can literally just jump onto there and just keep dropping down until you see it if you want to do it that way. So, you know, there are different avenues, and it's just another tool. No one's saying it's the go-to. You have to do it and that stuff. It's just it certainly helped a few of us out. I must admit, I know quite a few people like it. But yeah, anyway, that is what it is.
Just for another point, for those who think this is only just for building a base, it's more than that.
No, it's for. I use it mostly for how to build my ships.
Yeah.
Because if you've got the numbers of maximum damage that a turret can do, you know how much to put on your ship to stop it. You know, as this deflection thing at the moment where we are now, you know where to say, right, that's enough of that particular armor because I don't need to do any more because more is just a waste of time. Let me focus on another area that's weak on my ship because I don't need to stack more than, you know, whether it be, you know, 2.3 million for you know, penetrative and that sort of stuff, or the 3.9 million for you know, ballistic and that sort of stuff. So
yeah. When you see a lot of the top headers out there, and you're wondering how they're getting into certain bases, it's a lot to do with how they've built their ships around the calculations.
Well, it's nearly all of it. I mean, yes, no, in fact, that's not true. A lot of driving, you know, and that sort of stuff, and a lot of expert driving, and you know, and assistance with spotting and that sort of stuff, you know, and looking at the turret and then thinking the way the fire support works and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff going on in your head and that sort of stuff. But you're right. The raw bit that you can do with this here is reverse engineer it. And if you build the turret, you can see the maximum stacks of each turret, and then you can work out your ship build from that.
I still think if you put a vulture on a center island, I think it still does more explosive damage per shot.
Oh yeah.
Just, you know, my point still stands. My math was wrong, but my conclusion is still correct.
Just sorry, Samuel's got a question there. He said basically in the skirmish discussion, did the armor in the FM get covered? No, it didn't. Yeah, so obviously in the FM that's out at the moment, there is a new armor in there as well. Apart from that explosive one, which I've actually used on my Proto tides. It's helped a little bit, but there is another one there, and obviously that's probably the one that's going to be needed for this, which is probably why they put it in now, because it gives us a few weeks. Well, not so many weeks, but it yeah, that armor's in there, I think, because that's probably what we're going to need to put on the new ships for the next raid cycle. I'd guess anyway. We'll see.
2 million points is not bad either.
It's not horrendous, you know, because it is a new piece of tech and that sort of stuff. And it's one piece of tech that maybe we haven't got to get later. So apart from all the turrets that are in there and all the other stuff that's in there, but you don't have to have it all. You know, it's probably advisable to, but you know. If you're not a PvP player, you don't need it, you know. So, you know, some people still just categorically go down the PvE stuff, and they're like, whatever, as long as I got a dock, I don't care. Do what you like with my base, you know.
So I have a giant chart that shows that it's beneficial to have them, unfortunately. So there you go.
Yeah, I think it is personally, but some people just don't care about it. You know, they think the game is a PvE game, and it's the battle is you against the, you know, NCP targets. But I think they're missing out a lot, personally.
I mean, getting the new armor and putting it on is unfortunately better. It's the same thing we're going through now. You have a lot more repair time, but you take less damage, and yes, that matters. For any reasonable assumption I can come up with for damage, etc. Putting the new armor on should help. Probably in the new targets, because I don't think these old targets have charged armor depletion. So for the current targets, charged armor is better, but once we get the new stuff in the raids, you're going to want the new armor.
Yeah. Good. Right. Has anybody got anything they want to... Blimey, look at the time. That's an hour and 24 minutes. Where did that go? Has anybody got anything fresh they want to bring up? Because I just want to come and then do a couple of things in the game that we've noticed that have happened, and then maybe, you know, we can probably make life a little bit easier for people. Hi, Lord. You got anything fresh that we haven't covered that you want to cover tonight?
Not really. I'm just happy to be here. I appreciate being here with you guys. And I've been listening to you guys forever, so you just keep going. And if I hear anything, I'll jump in.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, mate. No worries. Mary, what about you, mate? You've been away for a while, haven't you? So, how many weeks have you missed?
3 or 4. I think I've been playing on and off, just kind of getting chores done and building ships and turrets and all that fun stuff. Did the raid a little bit. I don't think I was working too much, but I mean, it's not like I was out and came back to, oh my God, what is going on? It's more of a, all right, I got to do a little bit of a catch up, and things are kind of crazy right now, and they're not really giving us a clear plan, but there's that glimmer of hope to where they, you know, small good thing here, small good thing there. What you guys have been kind of saying as well.
Yeah, Venom just had a little look at the chart, so I'll just flip back to you, mate. So, looking at the Vulture turret, you're saying, yeah, but obviously it's the range is the issue, isn't it? They're two sort of like, you know, yes, it does a secondary damage of explosive, which is fantastic, and its primary is obviously, you know, penetrative, but obviously you've got to get the darn thing in range. That's the only thing with it. But yeah, it's interesting that its secondary damage is more than the positive damage that you're supposed to be able to get out of the actual explosive turret.
In theory, yes. It depends on if the faction will apply to it, transformer apply to it. I don't know if Fuel Air will apply to it, but if it does, it jumps up even further. Just all things like that. But in theory, yeah, it should do a bit more on the Vulture compared to the actual explosive turrets, which is a bit stupid.
I mean, I put Zen Cells 2 on my thing because it's explosive damage on a turret. Like, I know what words mean, and if it doesn't work, then it's not my fault because all the words match. It deals explosive damage. That buffs explosive damage. It should work.
Yeah, nothing seems to work as they say it works. Nothing more than the DOT. If anyone actually wants to try and figure out how that works again, be my guest. It'll take 50 hours.
Oh dear. I've been driving around in a few bases, I'll admit it, okay, for the last couple of days. I've just been driving around with one ship and then just pop into people's bases and go, oh look, he's got 4. Let me just drive my ship around and let's see how long it lasts. And I've just been trying to work out different types of builds on my You know, oh, it's just yeah. Anyway,
There is quite literally nothing you can do to anything other than the witch doctor to make it to survive. And
it's only the witch doctor. Yeah, it's only the witch doctor I'm using. Just one witch doctor, and I'm just timing how many shots it can take by the number of things it's doing, and then just adjusting this and adjusting that. And yeah, it's been interesting to say the least. I mean, it doesn't cost me anything because, you know, it's just like go back and fix and then go and annoy somebody else, you know. So I'm using people's bases like as if it's a bit of a preview. So it's quite funny. But yeah. So if anybody sees me turn up at your base and I've only got one ship that's got nothing to do with trying to actually hit your base, I'm trying to work some stuff out. But
I had a guy with the witch doctor come and hit me. I just watched him for 3 minutes sitting under my the short range corrosive turret.
Yeah.
Oh no, wait, that doesn't do dot, so it doesn't matter. But dot should be reduced by deflection. Otherwise, everything dies immediately.
Dot is reduced by deflection. The
Yeah,
problem is how dot is calculated. So if I share that screen,
it overlaps very quickly, doesn't it? Yeah.
That 800k, when that actually hits, it's doing about 2 million. It doesn't do 800k.
It's interesting.
Oh,
Should
yeah.
we go into that again, shall we? No,
No,
let's
no.
not. Let's not. I'm sick of dot. Okay, basically, if you've
It
got a
took
stack of
Cafe
those
like
in your,
10
if
minutes.
you've got 4 of those in the base, don't go in there. Go somewhere else.
If you have
took
one in the
Cafe-
base, don't go into it. It only takes one.
It took Cafe like 10 minutes to explain it the other night, and I can't even remember it all because it's nonsense.
Just look, bad, naughty things. All right, just don't go near them. Don't do it. Oh dear.
So I've just had a look at, from the discussion earlier, the Proto Tide Seeker,
Mhm.
and in reference to the new armor, and I took a look at our Manticores as a point of reference.
Yeah.
The Proto Tide Seeker has a larger armor pool. It's more armor points, so it's more health to begin with. And by the time you actually add the CTX armor, you're looking at similar defense values. So as a raid hull, it would look like it would be S set viable.
Unless they put something in the S set that just absolutely. Just think of like the dragons, like, you know, with the dragon aura and that sort of stuff. And you know, there are certain things that they can do that just. Remember, go back to the Hellwraith and they had that horrendous explosive missile-looking thing that just zoomed in on your ships from a million miles away and just took them out. You know, there are some funky things that they can bring into a game to completely skull you. You know,
I didn't mind that death missile, but I had the right crew on. I could just tear through a target with like 2-3 coins.
Yeah, I didn't mind it once they settled it down, but the very first reiteration with it was like, yeah, warp factor 9, and you just didn't even see it coming, and it came from right across the screen and that sort of stuff. You know, yeah, as Heffy said, the hunter killer mortar. You know, it was just nuts. It was a missile mortar, weird looking thing, and no one knew anything about it. So,
And they do,
99%
I love that
certain.
more than the rest in that cycle, to be honest.
yeah, I would not count that those will be doing anywhere near the S set, because otherwise they'd be going, well, don't build a new hull, then I'll just use those. And you know, this company's not like that. It just isn't.
I mean,
Like,
they
guys
banned.
You guys forget the point of they keep locking everything out.
Yeah.
They just
they
set
banned-
to them specific hulls. Nothing else goes in.
Historically, that's the way it works. You know, you've got to have the latest stuff. But I would just be content if they could just go one. Do you know what? Even if they ended up doing for basic minimum damage the T6, so you just keep grinding away, at least you've got some secondary worth apart from one side of a blinking SSRB. It's just annoying me, you know. And then when it comes to these targets being on the water, you know, that set of ships can also have a secondary use as well. So, you know, but yeah, it will happen probably.
I agree that they'll probably be locked out, but I'm just making the point that numerically speaking, they are comparative to what we have in terms of Manticores.
Numbers are there, yeah. And the build time, I mean, the thing I don't mind too much about these is the build time's nice. You know, that it's not overly horrendous. You know, if they could go along if they could get the hulls, the actual hulls down to the build time of, you know, like the PvP ones, like 16 hours and 17 hours, if the whole thing is like 10 to 12 days to do, you know, that's almost like cutting things in half. You know, and if it's a 3-month raid cycle, that's, you know, just over the 1 month cycle, and then putting your FM, you'd be ready by the end of the month. It'd be good.
You say it's not bad, but put charged armor on like it was at the very start, and it jumps up.
Yeah, but they can mess around with that. That's what I'm saying. The whole thing, if it's about 12, I mean, Armored fully finished everything. If it works out about 12 days per ship and that sort of stuff, bear in mind we can get 2 to 3 FMs and that sort of stuff, then we could virtually be there within the month, and we'd be ready by not fully built and done by the first one, but definitely by the second one. And that's the way you want to be, And then you can titivate between the second and third if you want to go for these linear weapons, or you can just go stuff that. I'm not doing that rubbish. I'm going to go and build some more X's instead, or I'm going to go and funk up something else instead.
What I wonder is, they're talking about the build times are lowered back to what they were in January. January
they were high.
Cycle. So it's off there. There's still a flagship that we're probably going to have to build. And look, let's be honest. Even if you don't want to build all 4 combinations, and you shouldn't, there's a really strong condition built into us to have us to want to build one of each of the fleets, whatever weapon or style you want. You want to build, I guess, the bat ray and the dagger or whatever. Who cares? So 2 of those fleets within the raid cycle, and that under 90 days. I don't think so. They've released a lot of tokens for the Buccaneer and the Hydra to have us even be able to somewhat keep up. Now, we did have escalation tech back then, and even though we have side grade tech now, that side grade tech is still expensive to put on. And,
oh hell yeah!
And they're going to have armors. I am 100% sure they're going to have the D6 CT and the D6X, where it's now 1 second of repair, but the resistance is only on the one thing like we have now. So we've still got to put those on. That takes 3 days to ship to put, 6 days total if you put all 4 on. And
but it doesn't need to. The point you make, it doesn't need to. It could just be 1 day. It could be 12 hours. It could be anything. It can be what they want it to be.
But their build time math is so far off. If they were going to make that viable, they had a way to do that now, and they're not. And they don't tend to properly adjust build times going forward. Look at everything from last year. Look at hulls that are technically obsolete now, like the Buccaneer. The Buccaneer's garbage, but it still takes 20 whatever, 18, 20 whatever days to build. But it's useless. But they don't care.
Okay, well, the first proof of pudding is going to be this particular hull. We can't discuss Buccaneers. That's last year, and I will give a bit of credit. Well, I won't give a bit of credit, but I'll make a point of saying, if they keep saying this is a new team, okay, so this is the new team's new hull for the very first raid cycle that they are the new team introducing to us, the community, player first. Okay, let's see where it goes.
They decreased their whole time with the increased weapon and special time. That was their fix.
The overall thing, the whole thing, kit and caboodle, finished, armor, weapons, hull, sculled, all that sort of stuff, has got to be less by approximately 30% over the previous fleet, because that's what they've already quoted. They said it on the BP Live, and they've actually put it in their forums. I literally just read it. So we have a 1/3, practically 1/3, not quite, total build time reduction based against the previous. And there should be no need to refit because there are no escalation weapons. There's just linear weapons. So with a bit of luck, we should hold their feet to the fire, and that's what we should be getting. And if not, you vote with your feet, you leave the game, or you just rant like hell and call them a load of liars, and let's see what comes. We can't do any more than that. That's all we can do. You either vote with your coin, you vote with your feet, or you just basically tell your friends, don't bother joining this game, even if they do try to bring people in, because actually they don't uphold what they're trying to say. So I'll give them, yet again, it's a bit like I said earlier on, crying wolf, and that's the same sort of thing. We keep hearing you say it'll change. Well, we've heard that year in, year out, year in, year out. So yet again, okay, and let's see what's going to happen. Goes back to skeptics, as Venom's got there, Skeptical, yes, because of our fingers burnt so many times. But the short term, in the very, very short term, they are talking, they are communicating, they are not looking at the camera, but they are going on the shows regularly and that sort of stuff. They are having regular interaction. We are having the week look forward. So some very good things are happening, but yeah, you need to stop.
I see a change, and I want to believe them just like everybody else. But like you said, we have been burnt so many times. But I can see a change in and they keep switching teams, and hopefully they can get their shit together to where they can finally be, okay, this is it. And I'm going to give them that chance because I do see a lot of things that are possibly going to be better.
But potentially, yeah. I mean, there are some things that are looking definitely in the right direction if it comes off. And if it comes off, the thing that's making me nervous is, you know, because stuff PvE, you know, this is supposed to be a battle game where we fight each other, you know, and the emphasis has gone away from that. And the problem is it went away for the developers as well, I believe. How they bring that back in, I think, is the longevity of the game, because you can only fight against NCP targets and keep it interesting for so long, you know, or you've just got to keep changing the targets constantly, that sort of stuff. You don't need to do that with PvP because it's the player that does the changing. All you got to do is go and go, do you know what? I failed in that guy's base last time. Let me go and have a little go. You know, or he'll be going, oh, hang on a minute, that guy there nearly got in my base, so I need to do something else. So that constant change, that churn, is down to the individual. He either gets in next time or he doesn't get in next time. That's either a little bit more brain power from the person defending or a little bit more brain power and opportunity from the person attacking. That doesn't need interaction with Kickside. That just needs freaking perseverance, you know, and ability and capability, you know, whereas the rest of it is all structured and governed, and it's nothing that we can do. You know, we can have the best fleet in the world, and we have, you know, 6 refrets on Manticores. You know, it's ridiculous.
Well, it'd be nice for them, rather than just having CM, Chris, and Wrongthinker talking
To each other.
to each other. How about they have a little, maybe not necessarily, they might not be good in front of the camera. All right, fair enough, but they can still throw up a stream. Let's see them log on to an account during these events and see what they consider is reasonable, and see them getting involved and see them participating, and see, you know, just to what extent they feel things are reasonable, playing it with us, perhaps just for 15-20 minutes on their stream. You know, it would go a long way, because they're able to see our comments, they're able to watch that feed and watch those questions, and, you know, we're able to see the gold they're spending on events, we're able to see how they're heading and what they feel is reasonable. And that goes into bounty as well. If they feel there's a reasonable way of doing bounty, let's see them provide that.
I'm not sure they're ever going to do that again after the first Scourge raid.
Because?
Probably not.
Because that was comedy. Whew.
I've actually, I'll admit, I have actually spoken to a couple of people directly, and I've said to them, look, whilst basically what you've said there, so whilst we have an opportunity to go left flanking or right flanking, you know, this ship or that ship, we'd like to not just see the stats, but we'd like to see a little sneak peek and that sort of stuff of what the target looks like, because you can't go, oh, I want to do this, because you want to see that ship interact and how that ship interacts with the target. And that can make a huge difference into what you change it. We all know that Skirmish, there shouldn't be, you know, Skirmish should be the odd, you know, dock sitting around and lying around and that sort of stuff, and oil rig maybe, but it's all about ships, you know. But they have some curveballs sometimes, and we want to make sure there are no curveballs. You know, what we were looking for is ideally then just a sneak peek, and just give us a rough sort of something or other to, you know, just go, oh yeah, that leads me to believe that I actually want to go in this direction based on what I've seen, you know. Even if they do it a week early, so we've got a bit of a rough idea, or just do it 2 days early, it doesn't really matter. Make the introductory video to this raid series, you know, as it used to be when Swag used to do them, you know, because they were pretty informative, and actually they gave away some little ideas and that sort of stuff, and I think that would be a good thing to do. You'll never be able to mirror what he does. You know, he was a big brush bloke, looked at straightly in the camera and that sort of stuff, and, you know, as a CM, I quite like the way he delivered it, you know, passionate and that sort of stuff, you know, and try to enthuse people. But yeah, can't just go, well, here's some stats. No, you know, we're not going to show you the target, but pick your hole, and hopefully you did the right one. I think we need a little bit more than that, personally. I think it's only fair to ask that question. Anyway, but that's just me. Right. Anything else you want to discuss, guys? Because it's sort of like that's an hour of eliminate. This is getting worse every Saturday night now. I'm getting into Hefe territory almost regularly. That's an hour and 40 now. Brian, anything else you want to go up with?
I like that they're putting turrets in the FM. They're not necessarily easy to obtain, but I think that that's important, especially that they're kind of, well, one's the older turret, the catastrophic mortar. I don't know about putting the one we just tried to win in the raid. That's different, but keep the turret cycling into the FM that are a couple months old. I think that's a good idea because everybody needs base defense.
Yes, no, I agree. It is interesting, I have to say. If they're going to put one of the newer turrets in the, whilst it's annoying because some people have spent an awful lot of their raid money on on this turret, and it's now in the FM literally a week later, so some people are going to be really, really annoyed. But of all the turrets they could have put in, this is probably the right one of the three, because it's not a game-changing turret per se. If they put the mid-range turret in, then that's almost like giving people that one thing in Bounty they did that one time, that one Millennium gun, basically, and basically all base hitting was dead. Base hitting isn't fun anymore. I don't think anybody's really doing it, to be honest, or they're being very, very selective in what they are hitting. But I suppose in some respect, it's the lesser of the three evils. And you've got to give somebody something to achieve, I suppose, rather than just. Otherwise, it'd be a pretty quiet week in FM if they didn't put those turrets in there, because it'd just be the routine, normal stuff, wouldn't it? I suppose, in some respects. But anyway, right. So 2 things we're going to look at, weren't we, in the game? That was my plan, even though I got into some massive tangents. While I'm just loading up my game, because I'm going to screen share a second. Mary, have you got anything else you want to cover, or are you just happy to be back?
Yeah, I'm just glad to be back.
Venom just in the sidebar chart here, by the way. He's going to come and hit me now just while I do this. You're such an ass. Samuel, what about you, mate? Anything else you want to pick up?
No, I'm good.
You're good. Venom's not getting the choice. Right. So I'll just maximize my screen. I'll just share the things. There's just a couple of things that I've noticed. Venom, are you in Alpha World, are you?
I just jumped out.
Well, I was going to say. So there's 2 things that I've noticed recently in the game. One that seems to have gone a little bit wrong, and that's in selecting bases for, you can right click on a base, or you can click on a base, you can see, what campaigns they've done, how many medals they've got, and all that sort of stuff. Okay, that's a little bit messed up at the moment. You can have a look at my rubbish base because it's nothing that exciting. But first thing I'm going to look at is obviously fleets. So let me just take these things. No, not those. Let's just take these things out. Yeah, we'll kill off that thing. Yeah, and we'll take out the Buccaneers, right? So we've got 2 fleets going out in the water. We'll get rid of that sidebar chat. So we're looking at these, obviously, this new fleet world thing here. So we've got the 2 ships out on the water. So if I maximize everything, then I'd obviously have to scroll through all this stuff here. But the good thing is they added in, and it wasn't on the original release, they've added in, obviously, where you can shrink things down. So you can shrink down everything else that's in your dock, obviously, and just by clicking that button there. And then all you're left up then is the stuff that's on the world map, which is nice. No, you haven't jumped at all because your mega shit's just turned up. Okay, so if I was going to go and select a target, and let's just say I was going to hit at 67, because we can alter those automatically, and 2 of those 67s with a set of those, then you're at 470%. And if you're low on res, then you want to go back and dock. That's fantastic. But the problem is, you can see that whilst the Skyfires are in number 2 slot, that's fantastic. Buccaneers are in number 11. Okay, so if I was then to maximize that again, look, generally, if I've only got 2 fleets out, I'm going to have to then start scrolling through and finding these set of Buccaneers. So basically, your most used chore fleets, if you put them in slot 1 and slot 2, then you are not going to have to use the scroll function. They'll just be there. If you've got a couple of fleets out on there and you're just switching between one fleet and the other, you don't need to use that scroll fleet. All right, and because as you lock them away, okay, and you can just press recall and that sort of stuff, you'll notice that once they disappear, look, what's out on the water at the moment is just the Hyperion, okay? But there you go. There's the Skyfires there in slot 2 already, so I don't have to do anything at all. I can just click launch on the Skyfires again, Okay, and you know, straight away, I'm not going to keep scrolling up and down. No, there they come. They come straight out, and that's brilliant for collecting res and using things up. You know, there's no lag, etc., and that sort of stuff. You can just dock straight away. You can dump off the res. You can come straight back. It's very, very helpful. There are a couple of snags with it. I've noticed if you fix the fleet on the water and then you dock the fleet, it looks like it's still broken. It's not. It's already been fixed. It just shows up to say that it's got damage. The other thing as well, when you do have some damage, it just says, you know, auto fix on there. It says that whether it's under the 5-minute fix or whether it's over the 5 minutes fix. It doesn't make a difference. It's not good. Right, Venom, if you've got your screen on, the other thing I want to do is I want to put a guard on. I want to show you.
I have a guard in my base already. If you want to.
I've got to find your base. That's the only thing. I don't know where it is.
Just down to the right.
Are you in the same world? Are you?
Yeah, right beside you, down to the right.
Oh yeah, so you are. What are you doing there? You come to visit.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty then. How far down are you? I can't even see on the screen.
If you go to Cyberstud and right beside him. So quite literally just down to the right.
There we go. Perfect. Yeah, gotcha. Okay, so that's a good one. Let me just zoom. Am I zoomed in? Oh no, I am zoomed in, but there we go. Right. So Venom at the moment then, and this is a problem that's happened recently. It is going to be fixed. Okay. So you can see, let me have a look at this base here. So this one here that says Outpost level 75. Okay. I can click on this one here, and that's just normal left button click, and then I can see, you know, his profile and all that sort of stuff, you know, and you can work out how someone's doing the game, obviously, by looking at what sort of, obviously, you know, what sort of shields they've got on their base and that sort of stuff, and also what campaigns they've done, that sort of stuff, you know. But basically, you can see what they've been up to. But the good thing is, obviously, you can select them for bounty. And the problem is, no matter what I do, because Venom's here has got a guard fleet, okay, I can't click on his base at all. So is that just outside but not on guard at the moment?
It should be on guard.
No, it wasn't on guard. So whilst he's not on guard, look, there you go. I can click on his base, and there we go. And now he's on guard. Okay, it's actually working, mate. So maybe after you've moved, they said they're going to fix this weekend, and maybe they have. Let me see if we got another one in the world somewhere. Because basically what was happening with people with the guard ship on, you could click on the guard, no problem at all, but you couldn't click on their base. Now I can't. Yeah, see, now it won't work. Yeah, so it has happened. Okay, so it was a bit of lag there. Good old lag, live in the game. Okay, so now I can't do anything. No matter where I'm clicking on his base, nothing's happening. So think about bounty. That means you can't work out then if he's worth any bounty and that sort of stuff, because there's no point using the bounty finder. That's irrelevant because it never tells you anything worthwhile anyway. So you generally try and find somebody either in the, you know, in the ranking system, and then you find out he's bubbled, so you waste your time. But then you are sort of like, as we all do, have a little look around him. If he's in a big alliance, there's probably some more. But you know, so at the moment that's not possible. And clearly, if I've got to go and hit his guard force and he's online, what's he going to do? He's going to bank straight away. So I've you know, lost the opportunity to go and take any bounty whatsoever. So that's quite frustrating at the moment. So he's just disappeared, and it should take a little while, but hopefully, see, I can still click on this one over here, no problem at all, and I can probably click on this guy down here, RBS, whoever he is. That's working as well. But Venom's, look, even though his guard's disappeared, no matter where I click, I can't get anything until I go back into my dock probably and come back out again. There's nothing I can do. So there's two things. So this fleet world management system thing, your most used fleets, put it in slot 1 and 2. Sounds really, really obvious. And to be honest, you don't really need that screen up as well. And it's just less intrusive as far as I'm concerned. The last thing I was going to quickly go through was obviously the world chat system here. So some people are still confused a little bit where they see this in the all. So this is everything I can see personally. Okay, so everything I can see personally is in this all chat. This is my all chat. This isn't everybody else's. This is just me. Okay, and nothing but. Everything that's in yellow, obviously, they have adapted the colors slightly. They're a little bit better. Yeah, thanks, Venom. Okay, so in the all chat, I've got, you know, the sector chat would be in there as well. So that's in the yellow. Obviously, I'd have my green chat from my own alliance. Okay, and then obviously the private chats, which are coming in now. If you're not sure how to do a private chat, it's pretty straightforward. Basically, you know, it's got a guide to tell you how to do it anyway, but it's the / and W and that sort of stuff, and they put the code into the person's name, you know, which you can do in the world chat, or you can literally just send them a PM, and that's what Venom did there. Look, and it turns up, obviously, you know, exactly the same in the sidebar chat. It's exactly the same stuff. And if obviously if you want to repeat it, you can just go /R and it comes back up and it goes to the very last person you did private chat to. So there are a couple of ways of doing it. It's quite handy. And if you're out on the map and doing stuff in the middle of a battle and you can't get to the chat, you can press C and it'll take you into there as well. So there's some good options there. But whatever's in your sector chat, is in your sector chat. It sort of like goes down in levels of ability. So if it's in, I did a chart, but basically if it's in your alliance or it's private, you can see it in the sector chat, but nobody else can. The sector can see the sector, but obviously they can't see the world from that window there. But in the world chat, then obviously I've lost the capability of looking at sector chat as well. So the most important point is whatever's in the all chat is my all chat. It's nobody else's. Sector can see sector, and that sort of stuff. Whoever's in the world obviously can see everything else that's going on in my world, the alpha world and that sort of stuff, but they can't see what's in my sector chat. So that's about it. Gee, that was exciting, but there we go. Right, hope that sort of makes sense. Right, is that about as clear as mud? Is that right? Hopefully. I don't know. Right.
It's clearer than explaining dot.
Yeah, it is. The fleet stacking thing, because I was out doing lots and lots of chores and tons of base parts over the last few days to get these turrets in, that sort of stuff. And I just sent out literally one Proto Centurion to each one of the new blitzing targets, and a single ship was doing it for auto fix. And I thought, well, actually, while I'm using up all this res, I can just keep sending them back and docking them. So I was just putting them into slot 1 to 5. And it was really, really quick then, and just launched them, taking them out. And actually, then I saw the benefit of this new launching system. It did make a huge difference because I didn't have to keep refreshing as you keep going in and out of the base. So made my crews last a lot longer as well.
Just when you mention crew, make sure your crew doesn't run out when you're doing it, because your fleet will just go blank and you can't.
You can't. Yeah, exactly that. But there are some anomalies. It shouldn't. Yeah, I suppose that's something they're going to look at, because it should just come up with a little thing saying can't launch, crew ran out or something like that. I don't know. You'll probably give the can't launch. Do you want to coin your crew? Probably that's probably what they'll end up doing, I'm sure. And the fact is, when it said when your ship was damaged and that sort of stuff, it almost took up 2/3 the width of the bar. They've actually put it underneath now, haven't they? So you can view it, recall it, or you can instant fix it. But the instant fix thing, you have to double tap. You click instant fix, and then the bar comes up in the middle. It tells you how many coins it costs, or or it's free. So you just need to read the second screen, not too much worry about the first screen. Anyway, that's what I've got. Anybody else got anything else before we knock it on the head?
Yeah, I got one thing. Hey, Brian, think of dot this way. It's a bullet, a charged bullet. When the bullet fires, it makes an impact. That impact will give you an original damage. But then that impact blows up and turns into liquid acid and starts eating this shit away. All right?
No, like actually figuring out how much a dot does and when it does it. I know what a dot is. That's fine. But look at either Wednesday or Friday on the Crib Hefe did something about actually explaining a dot. Go find that. Try to wrap your head around it.
I tell you what I think of it. Yeah, and you're right. I think of it as like, in the UK we've got stuff called nitromorse, which burns off, paint off of doors and that sort of stuff. So if you drop one little splodge of it onto the paint, how quickly is that going to burn through? And that's what you're asking, Brian. How quickly is it burning through? And when you put the second drop on, which obviously makes the compound stronger, how much is the second drop going to affect the first drop and that stuff? And then when you drop the third drop on, that's the concept, isn't it? Additive, multiplicative. When does the first drop wear off and that sort of stuff, And it just goes into Hefe world.
I think there's a 60-second timer on it, so it keeps eating for 60 seconds.
It's a lot less complicated than it's made out to be. I'll explain it very quickly. Your dot damage.
Go on, let me look on your screen a second. Go on, have some fun.
Dot damage is at 400k.
You've got 4 minutes, by the way.
Okay, 400k. Dot duration of 10 seconds. So your DPS for your dot will be 400k divided by 10. That's for one stack. So if we go down to, or up to your projectiles, you've got 5 multi-shots. So that's going to hit 5 times. We know that the max damage is 800k. So it's going to be doing 40k per one. So you'll need 20 to get to 800k. Now, the actual damage you're going to take is not the 800k. The 800k is your damage per second. your actual damage is calculated by that max damage by the tick rate. Now, for the cryo adder strike turret, I think the tick rate was something like 2.5 seconds. It's somewhere in the forums, buried in there.
Yeah, I saw something in the forums about tick rates. Yeah.
You're taking your 800k and you're multiplying it by 2.5, so that's 2 million damage. That 2 million damage is the value you're taking for your deflections.
So you take 2 million damage every 2.5 seconds because that's the tick rate.
Yes.
But the tick rate is nowhere on this weapon.
No. And
There
that's
we go.
that's the bit. That's the that's what I'm saying. If you're going to refactor all this stuff, this is part of the things. There's some things that you shouldn't just have to guess. And people asking poignant questions in forums and that sort of stuff, and then the answers get buried into some really bizarre places on the forums, and you got to go digging all the time, which makes it quite awkward. I think that's a discussion for the after show. Right.
Yeah, we're done here.
We are done. You're right. We're on 2 hours. Freaking heck, 2 hours. I need to stop doing this. Right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Okay, another interesting 2-hour episode. Thanks everybody for staying with us. Okay, then. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. I hope you enjoy the rest of the XP weekend. Look forward to our update, obviously. It should be coming out on Monday, which means we'll be able to do the show on Tuesdays. The last 3 have been like that, so things are back online and quite good as far as I'm concerned for administrative purposes. Have a good weekend for the rest of it. UK, enjoy your bank holiday Monday. I know you will. And I've got a funny feeling it's a bank holiday in India as well, which I know Agni, that's his area. So he's in the friend alliance, I know. So have a good holiday if that's what you get to have, mate. I don't know how it works for you guys, but if you get one, and then have it, enjoy it. Take care, and I'll speak to you next week. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Take it easy. Have a good one.